Welcome to Digital Currents, brought to you by Morgan Creek Digital. I'm Xavier Segura. Each episode, we spotlight the topics and people changing the tech industry with a focus on AI, blockchain, chips, and big data. Thanks for listening, and please make sure to subscribe if you like what you hear. And remember, stay current.
Mark, we have made it towards one of the last holidays here in Thanksgiving. How will you be celebrating? First, let me say I am thankful for our friendship and for our Digital Currents audience.
I am thankful as well. A deep gratitude to everyone who joins us every week. And so I am a road game. You can see the lovely pictures of oil wells behind me down here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, every year since 1984 when met my wife and been coming down here. This is their thing. They love Thanksgiving down here, which worked out great because my parents are more Christmas people. But not that they don't celebrate Christmas. It's just Thanksgiving is their jam. So doing a little remote and excited to be here. We didn't quite get the memo on coordination, but you were scrambling this morning, so I understand.
Oh yeah, I had, you know how sometimes they have travel days around the holidays where things are just a real cluster. I think technology works like that, and I just got it bad with all of my systems failing at once, but we would not be deterred. We were able to kind of come in, and I think, especially as we look at, what's been happening since our last show, I think a lot, Mark. First of all, the sky has not fallen. It is simply had a little bit of a twilight, but we are now kind of at a point where we're seesawing around 90. We're kind of now at a point where hopefully the worst is past us. We certainly wiped out a lot of the leverage. But like what always happens, Mark, we talk about this quite a bit on our show is, when is the quote unquote death of our asset class coming with whatever flash crash du jour we see, and it is not that yet.
Look, 100%. So I don't think I'm going to stand on the chair here at the hotel because it's a little wobbly, but I think I can do the sock reveal this way, which is I have the let's see if I'm flexible enough. I have the original, Bitcoin Genesis block sock game on to remember why we Bitcoin. Like, why do we own Bitcoin? We own it to be sovereign. Well, what does that mean, right? It means that we have an asset that can't be seized, can't be taken away from us. And I think that's going to become increasingly important. A bunch of other stuff with AI that we'll talk about. We want it to be secure. It is the most powerful computing network on the planet. And what the last part of it, which I think is interesting, is I didn't travel with the orange pants. So I have and we're recording on Wednesday. Normally, we record on Friday, but that's Black Friday, so no one's really gonna be working much. Not sure how much shopping you'll do. I don't do any. I don't go with that madness.
Yeah, Mark, I'll say that I am a sucker for a good deal as any venture capitalist. So I am on the hunt more on the digital side because it is literally murder in the stores. So yes, I'll probably reserve the day.
Cyber Monday is your day. So Cyber right. Monday, but I do have the black pants on just like last week, and Bitcoin's still on sale. Now, since we were together last week, it's fallen another, 5-ish%. And the question is, how low can we go? Where are we? It's so funny. I read so much stuff this week about how the 4-year cycle is gone. What are you talking about? Like, well, we haven't had any bull market this year. Like, what are you talking about?
I mean,
we were up almost 60% from, trough to peak. And from the beginning of the year to the peak on October 6th, we were up about 40%. So that's a big move. And yes, we are flat over the past 12 months. Right. But that doesn't mean that, And again, it's not the 4-year cycle, it's the 3-year, 11-month cycle, 3.11 as I labeled it. And it worked perfectly, like to the day of when it was supposed to peak. December in 17, November in 21, and October in 2025. And now we're in that, 364-day period where you drift downward. And the question is, how far do we drift downward? History tells us that we will drift, somewhere meaningfully below fair value. And historically, we've gotten to the level of about 50% of fair value. Now, I'm not sure we have to get that far, because the reason I think we went that far in the past was, as you were saying, all the deleveraging that was happening and all of the unwinding of the speculation and the gambling, that had pushed us 2 times above fair value. So it was logical that we fell right through fair value and then even had a bigger drop. But I think more likely than not, it's going to drift sideways with volatility, with a slight downward draft. And this is the accumulation phase. When markets move, like the tweet was, bear markets build character, right? When the market goes down, you get better. It's like everything we do. Anytime you lose, anytime you fail, you get better. And I'm wearing a little flash of Carolina blue last night. Carolina, who's looking really good in basketball. Not that we have to talk all about football, but looking really good in basketball. Was playing a team, St. Bonaventure, not an amazingly high ranked team, but they were undefeated. And they were undefeated because they had this one guy. I mean, they have a lot of guys, but they have this one really big guy who, they were making comparisons to Bob Lanier, which I didn't realize played at St. Bonaventure back, 60 years ago. And long story short, this guy was really good. And they came back from a 10-point deficit. They fought back. They tied it up, even took a lead for a couple minutes. And Carolina learned from that. And they're like, oh, okay, this isn't going to be a walk in the park. And they came back and they won by a lot in the end. But the point is, we learn from our setbacks. And so bear markets create character. Bull markets obviously create wealth, right? That's how we all make money. But it's these sideways chop markets where I will argue real wealth is created, because that's where the accumulation happens.
Right.
When a price is kind of chopping around a level, you have a lot of time. You don't have to act right away. Like, sometimes you get these flash crashes, like you said, and things go really low and you got to buy them right away. Here, you're going to have some time to accumulate.
No, I think that's fair to say, Mark, and we'll do in lieu of some of the holidays, we'll do kind of a special closing segment in lieu of our chart of the week and kind of think about, we're all sitting around the Thanksgiving dinner table. And of course, for those listeners of Digital Currents, they're going to be the ones that'll have to educate the family about, what these markets mean and some of the important questions that they will be undoubtedly tasked with answering. So I think we kind of gotten into one about kind of a market survey, taking, almost $1 trillion off the top of our asset, kind of some of the worst months in years since 22. But, there are some other pieces here that maybe can help triangulate this. And I think that's the biggest frustration, Mark, right? With our asset classes, it's not correlative in the sense of, this one very specific idea is the reason up or down. And that is probably the biggest source of frustration for retail investors, for example, right? That say, oh, I'm going to have this kind of algo track, the futures market, and I'm going to trade based off of that, just as I would, for my equities portfolio. It doesn't always work like that for crypto, right? So the two kind of prevailing winds, and I'm wondering, Mark, if you're subscribing here to some of these ideas and maybe not, but what we're seeing kind of the mass media describe as the two main cases, for potential bulls behind the curtain are the Federal Reserve interest rate cuts and growing institutional adoption. Those are kind of like the two larger bubbles here that are hoping to push up the market. And then where it gets a little bit confusing, Mark, is the idea of, where do stablecoins fit into this, right? Are stablecoins kind of sucking some of the oxygen out of the Bitcoin room? And I think that is a little bit less clear because the behaviors are fundamentally different. You're not supposed to hold stablecoins to combat inflation because if they track the US dollar, which is ultimately inflationary, then you're not going to have a very good investment, even if there's some that have slight yield. It's more transactional friction cost.
It's a silly argument.
Yeah.
It's like saying that, your money market account is taking cash away from your equity portfolio.
Mhm.
Look, we all need to own liquid, stable assets. Right? To function in society, right? We have to pay our bills, we have to pay our mortgage, we have to pay for food, we have to pay for clothing. And, virally, right? Professor Plum, my friend Mike Green, he wrote this piece that said, the poverty line is wrong. And like most government statistics, even when the government's open, like when the government's closed, you don't get the government statistics. And I guess yesterday they announced there's going to be no third quarter GDP. Like, well, there was third quarter GDP, but the fact that people weren't there to count it, like, well, but all the data is there. We can push a button and create it. So, okay, fine. You want to pretend like it doesn't exist, but all the data, whether it's CPI, whether it's industrial production, all these statistics were created a long time ago,
right?
Like in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, in a world that doesn't exist today, right? And so anyway, he pointed out a bunch of things that are just wrong, and made a statement which I don't know if I agree with it or not, but it's got a lot of coverage. The poverty line is 140,000. Like if you don't make 140,000 as a family, you are barely getting by. You're living paycheck to paycheck. And that sounds silly at first until you do the math. And it is silly because certainly you can live differently, right? You don't have to own a home. You don't have to have a mortgage. You can rent, and you don't necessarily have to do, you don't have to rent in the poshest district. So,
right.
And look, that's a very privileged statement because I don't have to make that choice. I don't have to make the choice between buying food and buying winter clothes or coat. I relate to that. Those are hard decisions, but whether the idea that the poverty level is like $20,000 or something, that's silly. It's definitely somewhere in between those two. But the whole point of it is you don't own cash or stable coins or a bank account balance to invest, right? Or to protect yourself against inflation. I mean, that's the whole reason MicroStrategy created the strategy that they have, right? Which you said, I have this cash that my business is creating and it's sitting there, and every day that cash is getting less valuable. So what if I converted that cash into Bitcoin? Well, then it appreciated. Actually, it didn't appreciate. The dollar devalued against it. And we had the greatest dollar devaluation in history following the lockdowns. And so people have this conflation of ideas that stable coins, just like money market accounts, they are cash equivalents. They allow you to function. Anyway, I digress. So, but owning Bitcoin is different. It's fundamentally different. It is an asset to protect your wealth against the devaluation of whatever currency you happen to live in. And if you happen to live in Venezuela, it was basically the only thing that could save you. I mean, not the only thing. There were other coins that function the same way. But if you didn't exchange your bolivars for something else, you lost everything. Like literally everything. Same thing in Turkey. I mean, lira, they haven't gone to zero, but they're pretty close in terms of value. So Crazy.
No, Mark, in November, I'm sure you've seen the numbers. Investors, they've pulled out $3.5 billion out of the US listed BTC ETFs. And basically, that kind of has, for better or worse, Mark, become synonymous with the crypto sentiment since their debut in 24. They're kind of reshaping how capital moves in and out of the asset class. But there is, especially since it's the holidays, it's Thanksgiving, there is always a silver lining. Let's talk about Texas. So they became the first state to buy Bitcoin, and what happens next. So basically, for those that haven't seen, they were the first state to purchase Bitcoin for their treasury, making a 10 million acquisition as part of a broader strategic initiative. And what did they buy? They bought the ETF. So here we go. Have they predicted the bottom at 80,500 or somewhere in between? I think what this shows here is that it's not a fad. It's not something that has been overbought or oversold. It takes a long time to make decisions, Mark, because if you recall, kind of on Inauguration Day, the formation on the kind of Federal Reserve for crypto became a bit of a sad news story where we actually checkered down because we weren't going to commit towards a buying strategy. More so, we were committing to not selling, which we still haven't done, which is good. Yeah, exactly.
And they changed the language, and there is no Bitcoin strategic reserve. There's this strategic stockpile.
Mhm.
Well, stuff that was already seized, and you're saying you're not going to sell it. Okay, that's not the same. And look, we've been promised a lot. And, as usual, politicians don't fulfill all their promises. I mean, hell, he did a couple, right? He freed Ross. That was great. Fantastic. I mean, that needed to happen. Now we need to get one for this poor programmer. I mean, the guy wrote some code. And now he's going to jail for 5 years. I mean, it's insane. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Because by that logic, you could incarcerate most of humanity who has contributed in some way to something that some bad person used. Highways, banks. I mean, who are you going to blame when a terrorist uses a highway to drive a truck to blow up, the building in Oklahoma City? So, I mean, crazy stuff. Anyway, so I think what's most interesting to me about where we are and this adoption story and like the 3.5 billion, everyone's talking about that. 3.5 billion went out of ETFs. That's like 2 hedge funds closed their position, meaning Millennium had 2 billion long of, IBIT, and then they were short Bitcoin futures against it. They were never long $2 billion of Bitcoin. That's not what they do. They are an arbitrageur. So the fact that the future spread shrunk and that it was no longer profitable, because it costs you money to borrow money. It's not like the old days of zero interest rates where you could put on spreads for free. So once that spread shrinks from 12, 13% annualized to 5% annualized, there's no juice. So you close the position. That has no information content on adoption, has no information content on usage, has no information content. And again, we go back to this thing of price is a liar. The price change on $3.5 billion of sales has nothing to do with the value of that multi-trillion-dollar network. All that has to do with is if the date for the futures roll is coming up, you must sell, right, before a certain date. Well, if you must sell, you don't get to set the price, right? Like I talk about this all the time with housing. People tell me, oh, my house is worth this. I have this with my little brother all the time. Oh, my house is worth this. I'm like, okay. Could you sell it today? No. I mean, not at that price. Like, well, okay, well, then that's not the price. If you had a month, could you sell it? Well, no, not at that price. Okay, well, then definitely not the price. If I had a year, maybe. But the price is what two people agree to exchange some amount of good or service. That's not the inherent value of anything. And so that that distinction is important, but it's kind of like I'll put the image. You know how when you have a song in your head and you sing it to get it out of your head to give it to your wife or something. You know, it happens all the time. And so I'm going to do this with an image. So, and it said, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it was a picture of Theranos Elizabeth.
Oh, God.
In a leather jacket, and Jensen in his leather jacket.
Oh, God.
And I was like, but Mark, you're telling the story, so you believe it. I'm like, I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just saying, once I saw it, I was like, huh. I'm not saying that the GPUs are bad, but Gemini, and I don't know if you've used Gemini, but I haven't yet.
I haven't used it too much, no.
I still use DeepSeek. My son-in-law uses Gemini, and he literally did one of the eye-popping things. He was like, wow, this is so much better. So I haven't used it yet. So, but the thing about it is Gemini claims, I'm not going to call them liars, but they claim that they train their model all on TPUs, not on GPUs. Now, why does that matter? Well, one, Google invented, or this guy who worked at Google and now is gone and works at Grok, one of our portfolio companies. But so they invented the TPU and they are producing them, as are Grok and others. If you can train a model, like we knew that the TPU was better for inference. And the reason was that CPUs, linear, GPUs, linear multi-track essentially, but still two-dimensional. TPUs, matrix-ish, kind of three-dimensional, which is the way the brain works. And so this is a really big deal. And we knew that TPUs were better for inference. And so all the big inference centers in the Middle East and all over the world, they're buying TPUs. They're not buying GPUs. They're just not. But training was kind of you had to have the GPUs because you couldn't use CPUs and you didn't need to pay for TPUs. But so GPUs look and look, NVIDIA has sold a lot of GPUs. And now the question is though, well, geez, if training can be done on TPUs for less, that's a problem. So we'll see.
Now that creates the big rub there, Mark. And I think, you know, as that transitions into, you know, what the future of computing looks like, you know, in a story about compute, IBM and Cisco, they've launched a distributed quantum computing initiative targeting 2030. To me, Mark, this sounds like the AOL Yahoo merger that I was a part of, which was kind of like the two old stalwarts trying to come together, you know, for one last run. You know, this might be up there, Mark, with, you know, when some of the classic bands, they come together for a reunion tour, but they don't have all the original members, right? They're just trying to catch some of that nostalgia. And it's funny, Mark, I thought of you the other day because I was picking up my son from school, and in between the breakup of, you know, the K-pop Demon Hunters, I slipped in a little classic rock and put in some Foreigner. And so, you know, it came on some of the great tracks. And, you know, I think he liked it because he asked me, Dad, is this K-pop? And I was like, not exactly, but not it was exactly popular.
It was K-pop in the sense of it was kid popular.
Yeah. Yes.
Not Korean popular. Yes. Back in a time when we probably couldn't have found, most of us in America couldn't have found Korea on a map.
And then the hard part, Mark, was that I had to explain to him what a jukebox was. So he thought it was Juicebox, which to him, you know, was more. Yeah.
You know, a reframing Juicebox hero, that works. And you know, it's funny. Again, we live these parallel lives. That we didn't dress alike, but I was in the car the other day, and I had on my Pandora and Thumbprint channel, so it's the things I've liked, right? And Long Way From Home came on by Foreigner, and my son's kind of, and we're on the way actually to School of Rock, where he's a drummer,
perfect.
and the cool thing is his band performance this quarter is Rush, which
amazing.
Holy moly, was one of my absolute favorites in college. I mean, and he's doing Fly By Night, which is an amazingly complicated song. My son, I mean, brag on him a little bit. He's a good drummer. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty cool. And the stuff that he's doing now, like, oh my God, I didn't know it was that complicated. But so he's playing Fly By Night, but he's kind of bopping along to Long Way From Home. He's like, Dad, is this Foreigner? Is this what you're always talking about? And yeah. He's like, Dad, this is good. This is a good song.
I love it.
Okay.
I mean, then the parallel track lies, Mark, and I think it just shows also kind of the fact that I think some things are empirically good and they transcend time. Like there's a reason why Beatles will be popular today, Beatles will be popular tomorrow, and they'll be popular in a generation time. Yes, there's the nostalgia, but nostalgia can only get you so far. It has to be principled.
It's a perfect analogy for what we're talking about, which is we could argue the Bitcoin is like the Beatles, right? In the sense that it's the basics.
The original.
Right? The Beatles they weren't complicated. It was pretty simple chords. It was pretty simple lyrics, but it was iconic and it was pleasing, right? For whatever reason, it's a pleasing sound. Not every one of their songs, but most of their songs are pleasing. And I will argue the same thing for Foreigner or a couple of my other favorite bands. Rush, acquired taste. That's a little thrashy. But bottom line, there are certain bands that are forever. Stevie Nicks singing, right? That's just classic. On the other hand, music kind of comes and goes in waves and genres, and it's kind of like compute, right? Compute, CPUs. Maybe that was the rock and roll of the 50s and 60s, right? It was breaking the hold on the pen and pencil and the green eye shade. And then we went through this period of kind of alternative rock, right? The client server period and the Wintel domination. And then we got into grunge, right? Where it was, everything was going to be super remote compute. And we had this experiment with some other things like Linux and kind of underground, really rebel, and maybe even a little punk rock, maybe punk rock and grunge together. And now we're kind of coming into this new thing, which again, I think the people like Sam Altman wants you to believe this is the rebirth of the Beatles. Like this is the everything is going to be about AI. And I pull it back a little bit and I'm like, but what we're really talking about is LLMs.
Correct.
We're really not talking about intelligence. We're talking about a tool that's good at certain things. Like I've been using it a lot lately to do some stuff that it's super fast at doing. Like if I want to say something, I can spit it out and I can say, all right, give me a couple different ways I can say the same thing. It's really good at that. I mean, large language model that manipulates language. But if I said, give me a great idea for X, it's actually not very good at that. And I've told the story of, I said, write me a song in Taylor Swift's voice, and it gave garbage. And I will say that there is a little bit of a, I don't know what you call it, like a newness bonus where people suspend their normal level of taste. Like we've all done it. I don't know about you, but I give a new song that I'm hearing for the first time, 5, maybe 6 seconds, which is ridiculous, right? But then I'm turning the channel on the radio. I mean, literally 6 seconds. But if you think if someone tells you this is good, you keep listening.
For sure.
And it's kind of like, and after a while, and I did this, there was this AI generated country song. And I said, I'll all this, and it went to the top of the charts, literally top of the charts. It was awful. I mean,
Oy.
awful. Like,
how many references to tractors were in that song? Because that to
no,
me
exactly. And it was like I don't remember who sang it, but it was like when my mama got out of prison, I sat down to write this song. I was drunk on a week, and so I just used all the words that were in country songs. And that was pretty funny, but this was just bad. And the beat wasn't that good. And versus someone asked an LLM or an AI, I don't know what it was. It was probably one of the generative AI tools. It wasn't an LLM, but generative AI. But I guess it's not. Anyway, they asked an AI to do Eminem's Lose Yourself in a 50s kind of crooner.
I like those.
Holy moly.
I've seen some of those.
This was so good. Now there's been a couple.
I'll subscribe.
A couple that were less good. Like they tried to do a soul one. It was okay.
Yeah.
With the gospel in the back. But the first one that came out, it was, I won't say better, but it was very appealing. Very appealing. And the words really went with the delayed beat so it's just really good. And someone said, "Oh my God, this will kill music." Like, cover bands have existed for centuries.
For sure.
Right? We've been covering people's music. I think we talked about this before for a long time. And that's the whole point. Someone creates something great. Like Eminem's music is great. It's iconic. It's amazing. And playing it with a different feel is kind of cool. I mean, one of my favorites, I'm going to stop talking. I went to China for one of the first times with our partner, Nick.
Yeah.
Back in the mid 2000s. And we go to this nightclub and I walk in and I'm like, that sounds familiar, but the language is different, but it sounds familiar. And then I'm like, no, that's Fergie. And it was a Chinese band, all Chinese people covering, what's Fergie's original band?
Black Eyed Peas.
Black Eyed Peas. They're playing Black Eyed Peas. And I'm like, no, I want to hear Chinese music in China. I don't want to hear the Black Eyed Peas, but they were covering the Black Eyed Peas. And it was awesome.
I mean, yeah, I could subscribe to a lot of that, Mark. It's funny that you should mention that. Again, great minds. Maybe it's the amount of time that we spend together. But yeah, I stumbled on the YouTube AI mashup rabbit hole. And yeah, it was basically like rap songs blended together through 50s, 60s, and 70s. And the funny part was that Bruno Mars was no difference. So Bruno Mars sounded like 70s music, it still does. So the AI kind of got that one wrong, but I'm a big Bruno fan. So
that's great. Because he is timeless. He's stuck in a time warp.
Exactly. Well, Mark, in lieu of the chart of the week, due to our computer issues, we will make a holiday special and think about the questions your family might ask at the Thanksgiving table about crypto. And we talked about one, and it's one point that for the avid listeners of our show, of which we thank you guys for continuing week after week to engage with us, is, why is crypto down so much recently? We kind of touched on that about what the futures market looks like. So I think that's definitely a topic that folks will want to discuss. And then kind of a meatier topic as well, since we covered that one, is crypto becoming a part of the financial system? So Mark, we often comment, a couple of years ago, you forget about the kids table. You were eating at KFC. And then eventually you started working your way up. So now you get a question like, is crypto becoming part of the financial system? How do we kind of address that for some of our listeners? Obviously, you could talk about Genius and you can talk about stable coins. But, for the ones that have to defend against, hey, this is a fad. Is this really part of the financial system? I think now we have more to talk about as part of this turkey Thanksgiving conversation.
Incontrovertibly, right?
Yeah.
In the sense that, look, this is our 17th Thanksgiving. The first 5, it was never talked about, right? From 2009 to 2014-ish. I mean, there was just no conversation about Bitcoin or crypto at Thanksgiving. because no one knew what it was. It was the phase one. First they ignore you because people didn't even know. Then for kind of the next 5, kind of through kind of right after the lockdowns through 21, it was, well, then they laugh at you. So then it was, no, you go sit at the kids' table. And in a bear market like 21, you were, like I say, you were eating KFC and you weren't even, you were disinvited. And what's interesting is this year, like last year, we talked about this on the show, not only did you get upgraded to the main table, but you got like 2 turkey legs. It was like Madden turkey, on Christmas football or Thanksgiving football, with the multiple turkey legs. And you got both turkey legs because and there was no hard questions. It was just, oh, thank you for introducing me to this. Coming into October, people were like, man, this is going to be the best Thanksgiving ever. I'm going to be at the seat of honor. I'm going to get double pie. I mean, it's good. Well, now you're like, well, geez, am I going to be disappointed? Now, what's crazy is the price has fallen, peak to trough 30%, but now about 25-ish%.
Yeah.
And it's still at, $88,000 per Bitcoin, not 88,000 cents it's $88,000 per Bitcoin. So it's still, and we have trillions and trillions of stable coins. And we have, like I say, this legislation that was passed, called the Genius Act, right? Not the Dork Act or the, Dumb Idea Act, but the Genius Act.
Or the Moonshot Bill. Yeah.
Yeah, the Moonshot Bill. I mean, but there is going to be this conundrum because there's going to be a bunch of people that say, yeah, you crypto people, you're really not that welcome because, I bought some in October at the peak and now I'm down. I'm like, but is that all you bought? I mean, you didn't buy some last year when I told you about it, or the year before when I told you about it, or the year before when I told you about it. But all that said, to answer your question, is this a part of the fabric of the financial industry? And again, the answer is just yes. And that's where I try to go, although, it's pretty boring Thanksgiving conversation. People are talking about football or food. But I do try to talk about, look, all this is a technological innovation in accounting. I mean, it's triple entry accounting. That's what we're talking about. It's a better way of getting that trust that we all have. I mean, the financial system is simply a system of trust, right? I mean, think about it. You take your money, well, you don't take it anymore. You hit a button and it goes. But your money, right? The money that you get paid to work goes to this institution and they take it. And now it's theirs. And they give you it used to be a piece of paper. Now it's, again, electronic promise. But it's a promise that you can come get it back. But then here's the weird thing. Technically, they can take it and keep it. So we trust that they're not going to do that. That's a lot of trust. And then the weird part is we have to go ask permission to use it. So what if they don't like what I want to use it for? They don't actually have to give it to you. And I don't know if you're a John Mulaney fan or not, but I am a huge John Mulaney fan. And, my kids introduced me to him and I just think he's absolutely hilarious. And so they, for Christmas, gave us tickets. And so we went and saw him recently.
Excellent.
And, he's had a pretty interesting and tough life and, got good
As
stuff.
Most comics have. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's struggled with addiction and all this stuff. And he was very open about this. He's like, I have a $200 limit. I'm not allowed to have $200 on my person at any time. And so when I go into the bank, they know me, which I thought was kind of funny. Like the tellers know him because he has to physically go in. He doesn't have a debit card because he has to. He told this thing about he's having his 3-year-old birthday party, and he was like, prize bags kind of stink, right? They're kind of cheap plastic stuff. I'm going to make the best prize bag ever. We get full size flashlights, and I'm going to get whatever. He put all the stuff in. The works, and they said, and what do kids really love? Money. So I'm going to put in some dollar bills. So he says, I went into the bank and I said, yes, John, we are not going to fight it. Teller's name was John too. We are not going to fight about this today. Give me $201. And so he puts the money and the kids are like, oh my God, John is the best. And, best dad ever. Because a 3-year-old, the dollar bill is
of course.
But the part about that was so crazy is here he was having to ask permission, right, to get the money out of the bank. So this trust system, we're all used to it, but if we had a system where we didn't have to trust people like Jamie Dimon just debanked. I mean, Jamie himself didn't do it, but his institute just debanked one of our portfolio company CEOs, Jack Mallers. They debanked him because he's in crypto. Like, you've known he's been in crypto for a long time, and now suddenly you're doing it because you can get a bunch of press, and they arguably are short MicroStrategy stock. I don't know if that's confirmed or denied, but supposedly they got a big short and they're trying to get him delisted. And so why would I want to trust people like that when I can just trust a network and an algorithm and I can have ownership through my keys, sovereignty over my hard-earned money? That's a long answer, and it probably doesn't work in a Thanksgiving setting, but I just tried to explain.
Yeah, it's a meaty question.
Trust and truth, right?
For sure.
It's better to have truth than trust. And a lot of people can kind of get that because if you've ever had the experience where, I mean, I did. I wanted to send some money somewhere, and they wouldn't do it, right? They literally said no. Like, what do you mean no? It's mine. And like, well, technically not really. And yeah, we'll eventually transfer to this Coinbase thing. We don't know what Coinbase is, and we don't want you to put your money there. So anyway, it's weird.
Well, we'll get out on a twofer, Mark. So the two also top questions, kind of like Family Feud. One of the top points for questions. Where else is crypto being used? So, beyond stable coins, and is now a good time to buy? For sure, the crypto guy at the table or gal will get asked those two questions. So you can think about things like, beyond stable coins. Where else would you say that crypto is being used for the listeners to be able to?
So stable coins is easy, right? Stable coins is a huge business. It is it's going to be a meaningful part of the fabric of financial systems all around the world. Crypto is being used in payments, right?
That's right.
And again, that's stable coins, but also some other ledger technology. But payments is going to be dominated by blockchains because it's just a better system. I think you're going to also see it in terms of, or you're already seeing it in, which I don't really love this part, but it is a good use case. Gambling, right? I mean, in the prediction markets, and eventually smart contracts are going to dominate that activity, because I say all the time, when people make a bet with me over football, which happens a lot, and then I forget to pay them, I mean, it's better if it's just, the smart contract debits my account and they get it. So I think those are big, meaningful use cases. I think on the question of is a good time to buy it, and remember why you're buying the different things. Stable coins, that's your currency to do things if you don't want to be limited to banking hours, right? I mean, a stable coin, you can transact 24/7, 365, anywhere in the world, and pretty much for free. It's not quite free, but it's pretty close to free. Way better than paying $25 for a wire that you can only get done between 11 in the morning and 1:30.
Right, right. East Coast time, Mark.
Yeah, East Coast time. Yeah. Right, exactly.
No, I think that's a great point.
But I don't know. How do you talk about the different places where it's showing up?
Yeah, I would agree with all of those. I'd add one in that a big trend we've seen now is the new market driven by RWAs, or real world assets.
Yeah,
market, Mark, didn't exist. Now we're at 35 billion this year alone. It's being really driven by things like tokenized treasuries, which our very own Figure is being big movements into, tokenized gold and other equities. And so, I think, when you see something like Mr. Larry Fink, who frequently, if Jensen's number one on our show, Larry is probably number two. Buffett's still in the top 10, although for different reasons. He's saying that the future, not just of digital assets, but of all finance, will need to be tokenized, all assets on chain. And then this is, something he released in his earnings call. And this is, BlackRock saying this. So I think that that's a huge piece where folks, I think they can understand that. They can understand, I can't have a nugget of gold. I can siphon off this into a smaller fractional share. Okay, well, that already exists with ETFs. But what about the friction caused by ETFs? The points about fees, the points about certain intermediaries, and also just trading hours and blackout windows that would create other friction. So this is kind of a no-brainer to me. And of course, last week, we spoke about MicroStrategy and their $850 million buy, and now Texas with a teeny tiny, not so Texas-sized purchase of $10 million, but significant in our heart, Mark. So
it's real. It's real. And look, I'm wearing the black pants.
Mhm.
We're releasing this on Black Friday.
Yep.
And everybody loves a good sale, right? And I say this often, and it is a weird phenomenon. In every business, when things go on sale, people run into the store.
Oh yeah.
To buy them, right? And everyone's going to see it this Black Friday. People are going to be beating each other up to get that, big screen TV for, $299 or whatever. Investing, only business. When things go on sale, people run out of the store. And the cheaper the price, the further and faster they run. And it's very strange. I mean, it really is. And look, there are some cases where running is warranted, right? There are certain assets that it comes out, like Theranos or others, or WorldCom or Enron, that it really is a fraud or a Ponzi, and you should run. But generally, if you've done the work on an asset, and you have the conviction on the asset, and you understand the value of the asset, and people panic and sell, so the price changes, you should run into the store, not out of the store. And again, it's just a very weird dynamic of investing, and it's because human emotion is undefeated. Bring it all back to football, because it's all got to be about football.
Big weekend.
I'll pick on them. So the BYU fans are all up in arms that Notre Dame is ranked higher than them, and they only have one loss, and Notre Dame has two losses, and they should be ranked higher. And okay, and then they make the point that, well, if we're 10-2 and you're 10-2, we should get in over you because we have a stronger schedule. And so you're basically conceding the next game against Texas Tech because you only have one loss now, and it was bad. I mean, it was ugly. I mean, you got beaten badly by Texas Tech. I don't know if that's good or not, but you got beaten badly. Okay, so you're conceding that, and so you lost two games in the last 4 weeks of the season, and you think that means you're good. That's just a bizarre way of thinking about the world. You're supposed to win the games. And Miami's the same thing. Miami's like, well, we have the same record and we beat you head to head. You beat us in the first game. No question. You beat us, right?
Yep, by 3.
But here's the thing. Miami, win and you're in.
Yeah.
Right? Win and you're in. If you lose to Pitt in the ACC championship game, you're out. Okay? If you win, you're in. And whether we get in or not doesn't affect you. So win and you're in. Same thing with BYU. Beat Texas Tech, you're in. But I don't think you're going to beat Texas Tech, but we'll see. Anyway.
I mean, Mark, we had to get that in, and listeners, you know that Digital Currents, we're huge fans of college football. Mark, I got to believe in miracles. As I said to you in our IC, I feel like the end of the year and Thanksgiving mushed up because this is one of our latest Thanksgivings ever. Next week will be December. So with that miracle, I'll pardon saying, please, football gods, let Michigan topple Ohio State yet again, because I know
Right,
they've done a great team.
Win, and you're in, right?
That's right. That's what we're hoping for. That's what we're hoping for.
Another 2-loss team that, you know, has some
yeah, we've had some ups and downs
in the resume, right?
That's
wrinkles in the resume. But you beat Ohio State in the last week of the season, you're in.
Yeah,
and
agreed. So we'll roll with that, Mark, and we'll probably also add, you know, in the spirit of giving and saying thanks, just want to also thank you again, Mark, for the friendship, the partnership through the years. And it's one of my favorite things in my life, especially as we get to kind of share with everybody here on Digital Currents. Again, as we say, that my favorite part of the week, being able to talk with you and to the audience. And, you know, with that, we will always remind our listeners my platitude of rate, review, subscribe, and as always, to stay current.
Thank you for joining us this week on Digital Currents. Check out our links to our website and social media in the show's description box. Please make sure to subscribe if you like what you hear. And remember, stay current.
This podcast should not be construed as investment advice nor solicitation for the sale of any security, advisory, or other service. Investment themes and ideas discussed may be owned by funds managed by the host and podcast guests. Any conflicts at the time of production have been mentioned by the host but are subject to change. Listeners should consult their personal financial advisors before making any investment decisions.